What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to the first of many Pay-Per-Viewpoint editions for this week of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And Robert E. Fleece.
Hello.
And today we are talking about, at least for this podcast, AEW Double or Nothing 2025. It's happening this weekend on this Sunday at the same time as WWE Battleground. And of course, we don't know the full card right now because it is Tuesday afternoon, and we of course still have an episode of Dynamite left alone to get into some of this other kind of stuff. We also have Collision this week, which can change things up too. So at least when it comes to the Dynamite side of things, if they announce anything that's different, which they kind of have to, at least for one thing, then we will address those differences on the hot tags coming up a little bit later on this week on Friday. But in the meantime, we are going to break down what we do know, and we're going to give our predictions, give our preview, all the other kind of stuff we normally do, which of course also means that we want to know what you have to say. So drop your thoughts in the comments section below. If you're listening elsewhere outside of YouTube, then leave a comment on whatever platform you are listening, or just hop over to YouTube and do that. If you are on YouTube at any moment, then hit the like button and make sure you are subscribed to ring that notification bell to get those email alerts for the post shows from this weekend and everything else when we potentially go live for those things. And also click on the share button and pass this around a little bit. If you are outside of all those platforms and you still want to chime in with your thoughts, Discord is the best way for you to do that. We pretty much don't bother with Facebook anymore at this point. Every once in a while, somebody posts something on the Mega Maniacs Facebook group, and I appreciate that. But it's just, people don't care about Facebook anymore, and I am one of those as well. And I like Discord better. So, discord.gg/whatever those numbers and letters and stuff are. At some point, I'm going to figure out some kind of a way to do the better link and get discord.smark out or whatever the fuck, I don't know. Or 2 minutes in and I already said fuck. So there you go. There's my monetization. Anyway, Double or Nothing has currently 7 matches on the show. We don't know who is participating in one of those matches, and that is one of the big focal points we'll talk about, but we'll save that a little bit. And let's start talking about the things that we know definitively are the way that they are. That includes not knowing anything about the buy-in. The pre-show is a complete wash right now, and as per usual, they're going to have matches on there. They're going to have a 6:30. Is it 6:30 start time again for the pre-show, where it'll do 6:30 and then it'll be 7 to 8 or the matches?
I would assume so, but I don't know if they've announced exactly when yet.
Let me see if on their YouTube channel that they've got that up yet. Usually they have the countdown and whatever stuff. Countdown's the other stuff. This says the buy-in is 5:30. And that the event starts at 8. You mean to tell me we're going to get a WWE style waste of time for that long?
Sorry, that was a natural reaction.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
It's not a WWE waste of time. That you actually get matches on the buy-in as opposed to just talking for. As I say, don't watch it for that long, because realistically the first hour and a half of that is just going to be a mixture of video recaps and Renee Paquette and RJ City and Jeff Jarrett quips. So, as I would just advise people, don't start watching that until the first match happens.
Still, that means that there's going to be 2 hours of a pre-show worth of matches before they go and do from 8 onward to probably midnight. So this is probably going to be from 5:30 until midnight. I hope that maybe that means that if they're starting at 5:30 and the pay-per-view starts at 8, that they'll throw some of those more matches on the pre-show and it'll end up being like maybe they end at 10:30, 11 rather than at midnight. But man, that's
all right. Hold on.
An extra hour.
AEW's been around for 6 years now. When have they ended at 10, pal?
Right.
I think
Pacific,
they might.
Maybe.
Now, I have a theory. I think they might be doing this because the Anarchy in the Arena does tend to go long. So maybe they're planning ahead for that so that they can end at 12 instead of 12:30.
Motherfucker, these things don't need to be 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. None of them, WWE or AEW, they don't need to be that long. Knock it off. I don't like that at all. That's a downer for me right now. Well, that means that they're going to add even more matches then to the pre-show, and that right now we don't know any of them, but we do know that there are several championships that have not been added to the card yet that they can throw in there. There's of course all the ROH stuff. They can throw in matches that have nothing to do with anything, that are just a match for the sake of a match. It's not even worth really speculating on what we think is going to be on the card, because at this point, I think it's pretty solid that the 8 matches that they have announced, or the 7 matches that they have announced, that's the 8 o'clock onward. And then the rest of it is, we'll figure it out, I guess. I don't know.
There'll be at least one more match on the main card, I suspect. 7 matches on the main card doesn't seem like it seems too little for AEW.
Possibly. Depending on how long they want that Anarchy and the Arena match to go, that could be a factor in there too. But I guess we'll address that on the hot tag, so to see if what else they add on there. 7 matches that we do know right now. 2 of them are for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, and the Owen Hart Cup leads into title matches for All In. So when it comes to the women's match, winner that's going to end up fighting either Timeless Toni Storm or Mina Shirakawa for the AEW Women's World Championship. And then on the men's side of things, Jon Moxley's not defending the title on this pay-per-view, unless they, for some reason, add a second match with Moxley. I highly doubt it. But yeah, he could potentially not be in the Anarchy and the Arena match. We don't know. It's going to be Jon Moxley at All In Texas, and the winner of Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page goes on to fight him. So with that stuff in mind, I think the quickest thing for me to just say is Mina Shirakawa's not winning the AEW Women's World Championship. Timeless Toni Storm retains. It's a means to get 2 names on the card. Storm defends, and well, isn't it fun that Mina Shirakawa's here? But the title's not in any jeopardy whatsoever.
I don't know anything, but I would say that if we ever see Mariah May in AEW again, it's probably here, right? Like, it's Mina, it's Toni. I think this would be a good place for Mariah to reemerge if she is going to. But yeah, I think Toni Storm's going.
Yeah, Toni's obviously going to retain. I don't think there's any real doubt about that. She needs to be in the biggest match, or the biggest women's match on All In. So I think that, that's an absolute certainty. But it's just a means of, this is Shirakawa is now like permanently signed with AEW. Get her a title match early on, just to reintroduce her to the crowd and just have a decent match, because Shirakawa has good matches. She will be a mix of like the comedy stuff they both do, as well as just actual grabs. And yeah, as I say, I think there's a half chance, not a half chance even, probably even less than that Mariah May does show up, but that would probably be just to set up a feud with Mina, to be like, okay, this is the big introduction of Mina and the big send-off for Mariah May before she ends up inevitably joining WWE, is she'll put Shirakawa over on the way out. So that's what I would assume, if anything notable happens in this besides Toni Storm winning, is Mariah May comes in to start a feud with a last feud with Mina Shirakawa.
Which to me registers in the same way that a lot of I've been saying for the past couple of years about AEW's women's division. It's basically 6 names that just feud with each other, and that's it. And when they throw another person in there, they kind of, in my perspective at least, they kind of like beat it into the ground to the point where, like, I'm not interested in Toni Storm against Mina Shirakawa. I've already seen it, and I don't think I'm going to see anything different. They're fine, like, they're good performers, but I don't see any progression happening. So it feels like I'm just watching a rematch. And if I was going to do the rewind, I would rather take that time out of the pay-per-view, and especially on a night like this where it's going to have Battleground at the same time and I'm going to be splitting my attention. if this is on the same time as like Stephanie McCurr versus Jordan Grace, I feel like that one, at least, even though that is a rematch and they've had matches together, they haven't had a one-on-one. And I'm more interested in that. So if it's like, if you put that at the same time, I know which match I'm going to be watching. And it's not going to be Storm and Shirakawa. But I get it as well as when it comes to like, you want Toni Storm on the card and you don't have anybody else built up because you didn't. And two of your other bigger names are in the Owen Hart Cup. Mina probably is the best option to go up against Storm. It's better at least than Storm against like, I don't know, Penelope Ford. You know what I mean? So, is what it is. We're all going Storm. I think it's pretty obvious that front. But I kind of have been a little bit in doubt about my original prediction when it comes to Mercedes Moné and Jamie Hayter. Now, I was assuming it's just Mercedes Moné because it's, well, she has all these titles and she's going to win another one and it's going to be her against Toni Storm. And it makes sense because they're the two that they push the most. But since it's been brought up on this podcast of the idea of Mercedes losing because of Athena, you guys are making me think about maybe I'm wrong about that. And Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm to me registers as another one of those. Okay, they feuded before a bunch of times, and I don't care to see the rematch, and that's a downgrade to me. But I am not booking this, and that's what Tony Khan likes. So now I'm starting to kind of get on board with that idea about, I think prediction-wise, it might be that Jamie Hayter wins that Owen Hart Cup instead. I don't know yet. I'm still going to, at least for my predictions on like the website, I still have Mercedes Moné listed as the winner of the Owen Hart Cup. But you guys are selling me. That might be wrong.
I like the idea that this match is more of a toss-up. You know, like I like, especially for a Mercedes match, that it doesn't feel like a foregone conclusion. And I also think that Hayter kind of set her sights on Toni when she came back. She was going to do this whole, like, I'm going to get revenge on everybody who kind of played a role in me being taken out. And Toni was a part of that because I believe she was still with the, almost said social outcast, the outcasts.
Social outcast was more fun.
And I think it would be cool to see Jamie get the match, even though Mercedes is such a foregone conclusion. I'd rather two major women's matches, potentially more, given that they're strongly building Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander and others. But I'd rather see more women's matches get center stage in Texas, and Athena Mercedes is a way to go about that. So I'd like to see Jamie Hayter win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mercedes did as well.
Yeah, I think that this is like a real 50-50 split for me. I think that the novelty of Storm versus Moné is a very strong one. That is your two most properly built women's stars right now, and it would be, I think even like, they might have had a match in WWE. I cannot recall if they had a match in WWE at any point. So it has that.
If they did, it would have been
just a random match on SmackDown.
Right. It would have been like when
they were definitely on opposite ends of the ring, but I think that was mostly Survivor Series stuff.
Maybe when Ember Moon was to win that awful thing with Nia Jax or something. Yeah.
So I can't recall if they've ever had a one-on-one match. If at the very least they've not had a properly built pay-per-view level match. So it has that edge to it, which could mean that it's more enticing of a prospect. I still think that there's a really good chance that of the Athena. I'm not going to use that name anymore. Use Athena instead, because like they had that great match already in the semi-final, so we know what their chemistry is like. Athena has a title that she's had for a very, very long time, and it doesn't seem like they are ever going to put that on Billy Starks, or at least not now. So I think that you could, and All In is in Texas. It's in Athena's home state, so I think that she should at least be on the card in some capacity. So why not put her up against Mercedes? She could still end up losing, and potentially losing the title, or she could end up winning, because if it's just for the Ring of Honor Women's title, then there's no shame in Mercedes just taking a loss there instead and building to a rubber match down the line. But I think that there is just as Rob said, it means that you can build up more high-profile women's matches to put onto the card, because I think that there's a good chance that that's on there, and then you can do Storm versus Hayter, and then I also think you're probably crowning your first women's tag champions at All In as well.
Oh, you think they're going tag titles?
Yeah, I think it's either going to be Willow and Chris Statlander, or it's going to be Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford.
I looked it up, by the way. The Sasha Banks and Ember Moon set up in WWE. They had 14 televised matches that they were either a tag team together or an opposition. Not a single one in singles match.
That's wild.
Everyone's like Ember Moon and the Boston Hug Connection against Alicia Fox, Mickie James, and Dana Brooke, or it's Riot Squad against Bayley, Ember, and Sasha, or it's a triple threat qualifying match with Ruby and Sasha and Ember, like that kind of thing.
So I think that, so as I said, there's a good possibility. I'm not keen on the idea of having interference in the final of the Owen Hart Classic. I think that as long as there's a rationale and it would lead somewhere directly, then I can probably live with it. But I would rather the match was just won outright by one or the other. And I don't think there would be any shame in just having Jamie Hayter beat Mercedes. That could help really re-establish herself as the top, one of the top female stars in AEW, which she hasn't felt like since really coming back from her injury, because she's just been in a lot of mid-level feuds since then. So yeah, and like I still recall just two and a bit years ago when she was just top of the mountain and like super over with the crowd. So it'd be good for her to be restored to that level. If it was gone to my head right now, I'm thinking Mercedes is going to win. But let's say it is very, very 50-50. They can go either way. They've done a good job, like with this match, and just making me think, yeah, like it's very much up in the air who wins.
I know that neither of you guys really watch Ring of Honor, but you definitely are more tapped into it than I am. Do you by any chance know of anything that like is Athena feuding with somebody right now where it would make sense to be like, all right, at All In Texas, they're building up to Athena versus so-and-so
They're
instead?
not building up to anything.
To jack shit.
For Athena, I don't think so. The last I really saw for build for Athena, it was that they had kind of made Diamante the new minion #1 person. Because they kind of just split Lexi from that story, and now it's Diamante, but they're not building towards anything strong.
Yeah, that's pretty much the situation I saw as well. I mean, the realistic thing is that they're probably just going to do another match with Billie Starkz at some point, and it'll be like third time's a charm, and that's when she eventually wins it. If they don't decide to go with the route of Mercedes winning the title All In, but yeah, I'd say I think I'm still leaning towards Mercedes winning, just because I just don't think they'll go down that route. I think they'll still put Athena on the card, but they could also do, like, she could be part of the tag team tournament instead, because they do have a decent number of women's tag teams, or like tag teams they can make in AEW, so I wouldn't be surprised if they go down that route very soon.
Have they announced a tag team tournament?
No, but I'm just
assuming that they're going to potentially, based off of just like context clues and stuff.
Yeah, it's all the stuff that's happening with Willow and Chris at the moment. You know, they've got, like, they've been building Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne as an act. You've got like Athena and her minions. So whether she teams with Diamante or teams with Billie Starkz, there's still an option there. You've got like Taya Valkyrie and Deonna Purrazzo. Yeah, got you can definitely team up like Sky Blue and Queen Aminata because they're like best friends off screen. So yeah, I think there's enough women there and enough like women that are. Oh yeah, and obviously Harley Cameron and Anna Jay as well now.
That's true. Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Now that you're putting it out there, it does kind of seem like they're building up women's tag teams. So yeah,
there's a concerted effort for that. It seems like it's so like funny as well. Like, they're doing all this, and the Renegade Great Twins just can't get on TV.
Maybe that's the way to bring them on there. Maybe they do end up doing that team with Mercedes, and it's like, well, I have all these belts, you go for the tag titles or something. But that, that's they're not doing anything with them right now, at least. I'm gonna say that I've flipped. I'm gonna say Jamie Hayter wins at this point. Maybe by the time Dynamite's over, I might think otherwise, but I'm starting to buy this Jamie Hayter win thing. On the men's side, the Hangman Adam Page and Will Ospreay final, I am sticking to my guns from the first bit of this. I think that they introduced this concept through Will Ospreay, saying that he's going to have that title match at All In because they plan on having him fight Jon Moxley at All In. And as much as Page is a worthwhile candidate for that in a lot of other ways, and he's a perpetual person that they could always throw into the main event scene, he could always challenge for a title, and it's not going to be like completely out of nowhere the way that fucking Akira Tozawa challenges for the world title. You're going to be like, wait, what the hell? Or even R-Truth right now with John Cena, even though for some reason they're making that a non-title match, and we'll talk about that on Saturday night's main event. Stupid. But Page could win, and I wouldn't really bat an eye other than the idea of why wouldn't Ospreay have won. So if it comes down ultimately to me of Ospreay wins, or I'm confused about why Ospreay doesn't win, rather than that there's a specific reason for Page to win, I'm sticking to Ospreay then. And Page has plenty different avenues that he can go in another direction. It could be Page against MJF in some fashion at All In, because they keep going back to that. He could start a new feud. He could be a part of the stuff against the Death Riders in a different way if they want to do something else along those lines. I think Ospreay is getting that title shot, though. So I'm going to say Ospreay wins over Page.
Yeah, I also think it's Ospreay. I think there's too much right now leading to Ospreay just being the face of this company. And while I think that they've done a phenomenal job of keeping the tension just on Ospreay and Hanger, there was also all of that extra spin and setup before all of this for Hangman and Swerve to eventually team up maybe against the Young Bucks or something. So I think that they have more for Hanger on the other side of this than they do for Ospreay. And I think he's going to win. I think this should probably be Hangman's best bell-to-bell match ever. But that's, maybe I'm just overhyping it in my mind.
I mean that's it, pretty much. It's a safe bet that when you have a match with Will Ospreay, it's going to be your greatest match ever. But Hangman has some stiff competition, obviously, with the fact that like the matches that he's had with Danielson and Moxley, Strickland. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to overachieve on. But if anybody can do it, it's Ospreay. Yeah, obviously super excited for this match. Very high possibility to be match of the night. Just these two guys are great. Ospreay's the best wrestler in the world, in my opinion, right now, and I think that he will win this because there's been a lot of interviews that he's done over the last few months saying that this is his goal, is to main event All In. This is the biggest show. This is what he wants to do. Wants to be on the main event for the World Championship. And so, yeah, I think that he is the right fit to go after Moxley at this point. As you guys have said, there are different avenues that Hangman Page can go down from this point, which won't affect him too badly. He won't fall so far down the card. But again, this is still up in the air. It's not like Ospreay has an undefeated streak in AEW. He's lost plenty of times. So I think that even though I'm more confident in Ospreay winning than I am for either of Hayter or Moné to go one side or the other, I think that I'm still in the 60-40 territory, because you definitely can go Hangman Page against Jon Moxley for the title as well. I think they'd both be fitting world champions to people to dethrone Moxley and win the championship. There is also the rather tiny elephant in the room, not Barry-sized, but that Darby Allin's finished climbing Mount Everest, or at least he's reached the top of Mount Everest. He's still got away.
I was going to save that for Anarchy discussion, but yes.
Well, yeah, that's part of it as well. But he's got a ways to go down. But now that we know that he's there and he's done that, so I think there's still plenty of speculation, and rightly so, that he'd be the guy to dethrone Moxley. So, not saying that would obviously affect the outcome of this match, because it just means that Moxley would retain it all in. But I think that Ospreay's going to win. I think Ospreay's going to win the title all in. So yeah, that's the route I'll go with.
Yeah, I also think Ospreay is going to win the title at All In, and I think that another person can wrestle Darby. Even Ospreay can wrestle Darby. I understand the full circle nature of him potentially being Moxley, but I don't think that's what it is for Darby. And I think the faster you get this Death Riders thing over with, the better this company will be.
See, I don't think Ospreay's winning the title at All in Texas. I think that if he fights Moxley, then I think that Moxley retains, and it's like the last step before we get to the Darby match. And I think Darby does something else at All in Texas. And then between Forbidden Door and All Out, whenever they announce that's when the All Out is when's All Out?
20th. September 20th in Toronto.
Toronto, yeah.
Okay, I don't have that updated on my site yet. I'll leave that note for later to do that.
First time not doing Labor Day, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so they announced this like just a couple hours ago. That's why I don't have it updated yet. All right, I'm not that far out to be like, wow, I got the data this weeks ago.
Well, I was thinking that with the Darby Allin thing, I think that the reason why I'm more gung ho on Ospreay winning the title is that I think the story for Darby Allin is that he's the guy that gets rid of the Death Riders as opposed to wins the world title from Jon Moxley. You can tell that story instead.
Could be, and that could be the last phase after Moxley loses the title, to be like, he drops the title to somebody, and then now all bets are off, and Darby Allin beats him in a match where it's like Death Riders have to break up, or I don't know, whatever it might be. Could be the case, but I'm leaning towards Ospreay gets the title shot and doesn't win in Texas. And I think that there's going to be enough other stuff in Texas, like the Okada and Omega match, and potentially Mercedes Storm, or any of the other kind of things that can kind of be like, all right, that's big enough. But if Paige wins this, then I'm going to be even more confused, because I don't see Paige versus Moxley at all in Texas. I think Paige is doing something else. I don't know what. Like, off the top of my head, it could be Paige against Swerve again. It could be Paige against I don't know.
The money says Paige and Swerve against Young Bucks.
Could be that. Yeah, that could be an easy way to get a lot of people on the card and do some kind of big match that's doesn't need a title involved.
The funny thing is, though, if there was ever a fucking place, and maybe this is my WWE brain, but if there's ever a place to market cowboy shit in the main event, it's Texas. So I think that's very funny. And I would say even Hanger's specialty is the Texas Death Match, but he's already had one with Mox, and it was phenomenal.
So I'm going to go Ospreay winning the cup, and the both of you are going to go Ospreay as well. And we all just disagree when it comes to whether he wins the title at All In, right?
Yeah, you're saying no, we're saying yes.
Yeah. So those three big matches out of the way, I think we're all going to be in agreement on this one at the very least. The tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team titles, the Hurt Syndicate, Shelton Benjamin, or Benjamin Shelton, as Hulk Hogan would say, and Bobby Lashley. Yeah, absolutely fuck him when it comes to that, and many other things. They're going up against the Sons of Texas, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. Dustin Rhodes, who has both of the sets of ROH tag titles, both the regular and the 6-man, and wants to then just win this one, which would then mean that he would need to go after the trios titles in AEW if that would be the case. But I don't think he's doing a belt collector thing on that front. I don't think
Tag Team Wrestling,
right? Dustin Rhodes in 2025 becomes the tag team specialist and all. Like I don't think that's going to happen. I am fully expecting the Hurt Syndicate to retain, and I'll also toss out this prediction because Dynamite hasn't happened yet. The contract signing, I think, does not end with MJF joining the Hurt Syndicate. I think that is some kind of, you need to have a match against Cedric Alexander at this pay-per-view or something along those lines. And I just, no matter what happens with that, either if MJF does join the Hurt Syndicate and helps them retain over the Sons of Texas, or it's just completely unrelated, I do not see Sammy and Dustin winning these belts.
No, they're not. It's not that I don't love Shelton Benjamin being a champion, but I'm kind of ready to get past the Hurt Syndicate as tag team champions if they're not going to fight some of the established teams. And you can make the argument, everybody's tired of FTR in the title picture, everybody was tired of the Bucks in the title picture, or whatever, but it's like, this is an angle where it's two well-established singles guys being a tag team. And yes, they were in a faction beforehand, but that faction was very much Lashley as the dominant world champion and Benjamin in a tag team with another guy. And this feels very, okay, we're pairing two established singles guys. And I kind of miss when like AEW's tag division was like the best in land, when they had, the Lucha Bros, Bucks, FTR, even, the Guns in some ways. Like, they had great teams, and I don't feel that right now. I feel like this is very pieced together just to get them on the card, and it's far from my favorite thing. But I don't see the Sons of Texas being the ones to beat them. I think this is just a kind of golf clap to get, Sammy back on an AEW card and get Dustin some exposure, because I imagine he's going to be a big deal leading into All in Texas.
Yeah, so the result is very much not in any question. I think the Hurt Syndicate are going to retain the championships. They're kind of like this weird halfway house where they're on one side one of the most over acts in AEW, and I really like. I was super skeptical about bringing them in the first place, but they've really hit it out of the park since coming in. They just feel like such a big deal, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the MJF thing happens on Dynamite and what takes place there. But they also have the tag team division in a bit of a stranglehold because they've just been booked too dominant to feel like they could ever really lose to somebody, and so they're going to need to put a team together, probably again of two singles guys that will take the title from them. I don't know whether that would be. I think it'd be a bit weird for Hangman and Swerve to be tag champions, but it would need something of that kind of ilk of two main event level guys to take the titles off of these two. But to be kind of, because they're not a quote unquote real tag team, they'd lose to a more official tag team like the Bucks or FTR down the line. There needs to be that kind of transition reign. But it won't be Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. So they're probably just on because, yeah, as you say, they've got a big Texas show coming up, and it's in Arizona as well, so that's only like not too far away. So feels like they'd probably get a good reception. So they'll do like a gutsy babyface performance, but they'll get squashed in the end by the Hurt Syndicate.
And for that matter, too, for anybody that's wondering about what they could do in Texas, All in Texas pre-show, they defend the tag titles. Like, they'll still do something. Yeah.
They're Ring of Honor tag champions, though. Whether they defend their tag titles on the show or they just are involved in, like, how they did for All In last year. They did the big 12, 14-man tag team match and stuff like that, and they were part of that. So they could do something along those lines as well.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Like they'll get them on the card if they especially have 14 matches. Like they're probably gonna have on this one and everything. They're probably gonna add even more when it comes to All in Texas. So it'll be a pre-show that starts at 2 p.m. on the previous day, and they'll just have that. The future of the tag team division and all is, that's something that like again tonight when it comes to MJF, maybe that's a sign in one way, maybe it isn't, but I
will say the MJF thing, as I say, we'll know more for certain as what happens on Dynamite and what the thing leads to. If it is Cedric Alexander, that has to be a one-off.
Oh, I wouldn't anticipate that being like a feud that they carry on for like.
No, I mean like Cedric Alexander's one and done.
Oh, not even like part of the roster.
No, I wouldn't have him as part of the roster. You've got such a big roster as it is. Why just throw in a mid-card fluff guy? Realistically, like he's not good. Like unless he's there just to primarily do jobs, I don't really see the interest in having Cedric Alexander there long term. Also, who he's married to.
They want him in the group. They want him. They want to be able to, finish that story on their terms. And
you know what I say to that? Fuck the story. Like you can tell the story with the two guys that they currently have. The two over guys that they had.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you. I also think that's a little unfair because Alexander is a good wrestler. Like he can, fit the AEW style. I'm not saying he should be world champion.
Life isn't fair.
I like that this is the hill you're dying on. I like it.
I just think.
You know what he says about hills?
I'm very hesitant about just everyone talks about how they don't want AEW to just be another TNA, but then when every ex-WWE guy shows up, they say, "Oh, they should go to AEW." It's like,
well, that's how it happened to TNA too.
Yeah, I know. It's always pick a lane with these people. Like you can't have it both ways. So, and I just don't think Cedric Alexander doesn't add anything really to AEW beyond just being another body on the roster that other people can beat.
I will say, keeping in mind that I was very, very, very pro please sign Cedric when he had his match with Kota Ibushi, and I was like, I fucking love this guy. This guy's great. And I think that he should have done more in WWE. I think that if they would have had maybe some other titles around at that time, and if they would have been a little bit willing to give him something else, and I think that Cedric has more value than what he's shown in WWE. But there is a part of me that is just like, all right, well, what is the difference between Cedric Alexander and one of the more recent signings, Kevin Knight? Well, Kevin Knight is younger, so you would realistically invest more in him. And then you get like Speedball, and it's like, all right, Speedball is somebody I'd think I would invest a little bit more in than Cedric right now too. AEW can have as many people that do the flips and do all the moves and everything, and they can stack that roster as much as they want. Cedric, it will be hard for him to stand out because he'll be the same boat as Ricochet, the same boat as, Top Flight, the same as a lot of the different people that are just like, all right, they're a good wrestler, but tell me what their character is. And I can't see Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin staying a tag team act and then Cedric being like the singles star out of that either. So unless the plan is you bring in Cedric and Lashley and Benjamin lose the tag titles, and then Lashley can go on and be the mid-card to main event singles act, and it's back again to Shelton and Cedric being the tag team, then there is an argument that they don't necessarily need Cedric. But that being said, I kind of want Cedric there to have some good matches with some people,
Yeah, see, it's always the both ways thing. This giant hypocritical landslide we fall into.
Because it's like, if you're asking me, do I want to see Cedric versus some of the people? It's like, I'd be interested to see Cedric against this person and that person, and
he would come in and have good matches. There's no doubt that he's a good wrestler. It's not even the thing about me saying about his character or anything along those lines. I mean, there's a guy on the AEW roster right now who's having probably the best matches on TV right now, and that's AR Fox. And he doesn't have like a character, but he is a unbelievable wrestler that does all of the most like crazy stuff that you could think of. Like he is there to just put people over, but to do it in a really cool and interesting way. Again, if Cedric was to come in and basically do that role, but as a heel, then fine. I don't see the value in pushing Cedric Alexander at this point in his career when. He was perfectly fine to sign WWE when they had a cruiserweight division and they looked like they were going to invest in it and put some time into building it up. But as soon as that fell apart, he just became like a bit of a nothing act until the Hurt Business came along. So
I'll say this: I can see at least 10 people on the roster page that if they got rid of them and they put Cedric in there, I'd be like, all right, well, that's kind of an upgrade. But that's not more so about Cedric upgrading it. It's more so there's a lot of people in AEW and Ring of Honor right now that I'm like, do they really need a paycheck when it comes to that? And would they be better off maybe in another company? Not necessarily WWE, but like, are they really worth the while for their...
I think you can phrase it better than do they need a paycheck? I mean, yeah, everybody does.
Everybody needs a paycheck, but like, do they need a paycheck from AEW to be on the roster and take up spot? Like,
well, yeah, my argument would be like, you're probably talking about a lot of people who don't appear very often on TV.
Yeah.
So in which case, it'd be a case of, let's say not to be in a callous way about it, but if they were to end up being released, then I'm sure there wouldn't be a great clamour to get them back, but then I would also say you don't replace them, you just let them go, and then the roster's thinner and there's more room for everyone else.
I think there's a strong argument to be made that the roster being thinner and having room for everyone else would be better in the long run, and I think that's more of the core of AEW. At the same time, that's like, it's hard to say because they do have these two brands and you do want to see as many people working as possible. But I understand the catch-22 of it all.
Yeah. Well, at least on the tag team front, I don't think that the tag titles are switching hands on this pay-per-view. And the possibility of it is always there. Maybe there is something on Dynamite that changes my mind or something, but I'm leaning towards Sons of Texas come up short. And that's either through MJF or it's, MJF is completely disregarded from it. There's another tag team match that's on the card, though, and it's FTR against Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia. Now, I don't anticipate any of these two matches being like, kind of in coalition with each other. Like, I don't think Nigel and Daniel win this match, and then it's like, okay, well, then now we get to fight the Hurt Syndicate, or that FTR wins, and then it's like, well, now that we beat McGuinness and Garcia, we've proven that we deserve a tag title shot or anything. It's interesting. Nigel's on the card. That's more interesting than I think anything else about it. And if this was anybody else teaming with Daniel Garcia, I would be pretty much just like, all right, I get it. Good wrestlers will wrestle, and I don't really care about this FTR story. I still don't care about the FTR story, even when it comes to the Nigel thing. It's not working for me. But I'm interested to see Nigel. So it gets a little bit of some bonus points when it comes to that for me. I think FTR is winning. Regardless of who they pin. Probably McGuinness.
I think FTR's got to win because I think they're due for a major match with Cope and insert name in Texas. I'm not vibing with this particular story because I think the addition of Stokely, one, it comes out of nowhere, and two, it's a bit of a hat on a hat because FTR is fine cutting a promo, and it just feels like, hey, let's try to give Stoke something to do, which I'm good with in theory, it's made it a bit more complicated, for this story. I think FTR explaining themselves would have done just fine. Maybe they did that because people were kind of okay cheering FTR, despite, him attacking someone like Copeland and Nigel. But I don't know. But I think it's cool for Danny that he's teaming with Nigel. I think they should have a really fun match. But I think FTR's got to win. No real question about it.
Yeah, I guess I'll be on a bit of Ireland then. I'm a big fan of the FTR turn. I think that it's working out really well. I think that their position is being super justified in their own minds, heels, and bringing on Stokely to basically be the mouthpiece for them because they're getting themselves into kind of trouble almost by, like, they almost took out Tony Schiavone and they've attacked like refs and stuff along those lines as well. So it's a bit, they're kind of pushing themselves to breaking point with their own frustration, and so they kind of need Stokely almost to keep them in check, almost, or to have a bit of be a bit of like the Weasley character that can be the more cowardly heel type, whereas FTR can just be more aggressive ass kickers, which is what they were doing. I mean, I was a big fan of the match they had with Daddy Magic and Cool Hand Ange, where they just beat him to a bloody pulp in about 5 minutes. And yeah, I think this match will be a lot of fun as well. I think they need to. The one thing that I'm a little bit unsure about is they need to think about what they're doing with Daniel Garcia. Because I think that his momentum has just really stalled ever since he won the TNT Championship. Everything since then has just been like
it's been very blah.
Not very interesting. Yeah, it's been very bland, and part of that is on him, but part of that is on booking. I mean, fucking hell, the TNT Championship's not even on the line on this show, and no one really seems to care. So shows where that title in the division is right now.
You know what's funny is I had literally thinking to myself, wait a minute, who's TNT champion?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
Which is like, that's pretty bad. Adam Cole is just
hey, if you're talking about dead weight that can be cut and Cedric Alexander can come in, I think there's one person that I can live without on AEW's roster anymore.
Adam Cole?
Adam Cole?
Yeah, you can drop him. What is he adding at this point in his career?
Needed to keep him around for when Keith Lee is back in action, and then he could be his manager.
No.
But I think that so this match is fun because you get to see Nigel McGuinness again. He only wrestles like a couple of times a year at this point, so it's just a nice opportunity to see him perform. I think that him and Garcia kind of mesh quite well in terms of their styles, so I think that'll be a nice opponent for FTR. But yeah, FTR's definitely got to win because it's not escaped my attention that with All Out now in Toronto, I think there's probably a good reason why they've made Toronto the place for that show.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I'm good waiting till the end of September for Edge and Christian against FTR.
Gives them some time to flesh that story out where it makes sense.
It gives it some time.
Well, they need time to make Christian babyface.
Christian gets to be made a babyface. Gives you time to get the titles on FTR.
Right now he's arguably more heel than he's ever been, because he is just abusing his son pretty much. But yeah, that's why FTR's got a win here to carry on the story. They're the act that will move forward with Copeland. So you need to have and Nigel McGuinness won't wrestle beyond this point very often anyway, so there's no need for them to win.
I'd be very shocked if they won.
Anyone else feel like just outside of Darbs that the TNT title is kind of, I don't want to say cursed, that's not the right word, but it's like people win the belt and it doesn't really mean much of anything. Like, it did nothing for Wardlow. It did nothing for, I mean, it did something for Jack Perry and then he fucked off. Where is Jack Perry? No one knows.
We might talk about that when we get to the main event, but we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. But I think that the TNT title should be a television championship that's defended every week, whether it's on Collision or Dynamite. I don't think there should be any other ways about it, because you don't. At the moment, they used to have a title for that. When Orange Cassidy was the international champion, they were doing that. Right now, you're not going to have Kenny Omega defend the title every single week, because he should be treated as a special attraction. So you should have a title that is being defended every single week on, not every single show, but at least once per week. And that right now should be the TNT title. Whoever's holding it, whether it was Daniel Garcia, whether it's Adam Cole now, they should be having matches. Like Adam Cole won that title, has been doing a couple of bits and pieces still with the FTR and Daniel Garcia stuff, but I don't think he's defended the title since he won it. If so, it's only been like once on an episode like Collision or Dynamite. I think he probably did like an open challenge thing, maybe.
Yeah, I think he did the one open challenge, and then they hinted.
With Claudio. Yeah, with Claudio. Yeah.
Then they hinted at it being Sammy that was going to challenge him for it, and then they did this Sons of Texas thing, and also not that I think it's good to keep Collision and Dynamite separate, but I think, as evident by the fact that one of the people on this podcast doesn't watch Collision, I think once you put something on Collision, it becomes it doesn't mean as much thing, and then that's a whole another talking point in and of itself. But I agree with you. I do. I do think.
He doesn't watch Collision.
I do think that anybody holding it, and Cole at this stage in his career would be good for that. Just defending it every week in competitive matches, kind of like the Cena U.S. Open Challenge thing. It's a good way to have a championship.
That's what all the best champions that have held that title did. That's what Miro did. That's what Alan did. Joe did that for a decent period as well. Like I say, and OC's reign within National Championship is one of the best reigns in AEW's history. So yeah, that's the sort of title that should be defended often. So hopefully they get back to realizing that that's what the role of the TNT Championship is. I mean, like, for heaven's sake, like Cody, his first reign was basically, that was what the TNT title was him defending it every week against a new cavalcade of strangers coming into the company.
And it was awesome. And there's plenty of things about that era that I thought were actually pretty good, but another conversation for another day.
That's how you can bring in people from like a CMLL or New Japan for a one-off match. They get a shot at the TNT Championship. That's what you should be doing. And it should be a title that changes hands fairly often as well, I think. But
again, nothing wrong with that. You need belts that change hands frequently.
If you give fans an idea that there might be a title change on any show, then that's a reason to tune in to any show. And when you get too far deep into it, like the 24/7 title, where it's like that didn't mean anything from the very, very beginning.
Oh yeah, that's a gimmicky title.
Yeah, then that doesn't mean anything as far as title changes and all are concerned. But a ideal situation, I would think, and I've made no qualms about the idea that I hate TV titles. I hate the branding of the word TV title, because it's like, well, it's all TV, so whatever. But I think the ideal setup that they should be potentially switching around is you merge those intercontinental titles together, the international and the continental, and then that's your real main mid-card title. And then the TBS and the TNT titles are basically TV titles without being called TV championship. And yeah, you defend that on a very, very frequent basis. If it's every week, that's good. If it's at least every other week, then that's okay, I think. But it should be regularly featured as a title match, and it should be kind of considered the C tier title. Mid-card titles B, world titles A. TV title is what you win to prove that you can be trusted to win the mid-card title, and then that's when you need to see whether or not you're worthy of like having feuds built around you and stuff. And then at that point, you move on to the world title. Adam Cole right now, not the person that I would put that TNT title on. And I don't know, maybe he's doing some good stuff over on Collision, but even when I read the Collision spoilers and stuff, most often I end up being like, all right, it's just a series of matches and it doesn't progress the story anyway. But Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuiness in this context, this match, I don't see a value in them beating FTR and where that would lead. And it's not like FTR has tag titles where they would fight for that, or it's like Garcia has his TNT championship again, and then one of FTR fights that. Like it doesn't seem like seems like it's more than anything. FTR was like, well, can we have a match with Nigel?
Do we think that Garcia does align with FTR, and this is just a way to get him a singles match with Nigel?
Could be. I can see that.
It's not out of the question, certainly, but I'd be surprised. Just because, unless they do the thing which is one of becoming like one of my pet peeves in pro wrestling, which is you wrestle a match and then turn at the end of it. It's like if you're going to turn at the start.
Keep that in mind with Sami Zayn.
Yeah,
because I could definitely see that happening.
A lot of people saying that. I don't.
You got to give the people what you want and have an actual match first, but then you're turning at the end of it. It's like
completely foregoing logic.
Yeah.
It's the same as when people are like in a feud with somebody and it's like, I'm going to fight you and beat you up and you're going to beat me up and throw me through fucking tables and slam my face into a crate backstage and all that. But then the next week I'm going to reveal that was all a ruse and we did that all to make you think we didn't like each other. And it's like, so you got your ass kicked for nothing. Okay. You're not supposed to think about that. Shut up.
Yeah, it's that, and then it's all the like the blood feud stuff, like pin job with like steel chairs and barbed wire and weaponry leading up to the match, and then you lock up at the start.
Yeah, and you try to win the match almost immediately. It's like, I'm gonna kill you in this Hell in a Cell match. You're gonna spill so much blood, but I'm gonna go for a roll up in 30 seconds to see if I can just win the match.
There was a match recently. I don't remember if it was on Backlash or something, but I was like, they're not gonna lock up, and then it was like, oh, we did a lockup. Maybe it was Cena Orton.
Might have been Cena,
yeah. Where I was like, well, surely Randy needs to try to RKO him right off the gate. It's just like, no, we're gonna lock up. What? Like,
dude, they locked up and then did like leapfrogs and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
it's almost like Cena took the you can't wrestle stuff to heart and said, oh, I'm a heel, I should wrestle now.
It's I think they just decided they wanted to, all right, this is the last time we're doing it. Might as well run drills like it was 25 years ago. But, I appreciate more intensity when it's a blood feud.
For context, that steel cage match between Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre, if we're supposed to buy into that being like a blood feud thing, that needs to be a different setup than the way that Sons of Texas and Hurt Syndicate start their match or something. It can't just be Damian Priest starts off with a test of strength or something. But as far as people kicking each other's ass is concerned, the stretcher match between Mark Briscoe and Ricochet should be a lot of fun. Both are fun. That's a fun match. I think I'm going to have some fun. And I think that Ricochet's going to win.
Yeah, that'll be fun. No, I agree with you. Go ahead, Cal.
I was I can't remember the last stretcher match we saw. It's been a little while since I recall one of those turning up. I think it got replaced kind of with like in WWE. It kind of got replaced with the ambulance match. Was kind of like the thing that took over from this. There's a few stretcher matches I recall from recent memory. There's obviously the one that like came back with like the Brock Lesnar Big Show one from Judgment Day 2003. I think that's the first one they said like it's the first one they did in like 20 or 30 odd years. And then I think the most famous one is probably the RVD and Randy Orton from was it ECW?
It was One Night Stand 2007, I believe. But I believe they were already calling it WWE. And that's mostly famous for the fact that RVD spikes himself on a fucking RKO because he's every day.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see what kind of configuration they do for this one. Whether it's kind of, I presume typical stretcher match rules is that you like wheel them out on a stretcher, but maybe there's a different way of an AEW approach to a stretcher match. Have they? I'd say I might not have checked it out properly yet, but have they given any context to the actual stipulation of the match or how it's going to work?
No, they haven't. They just said that, to the best of my knowledge, they were just like, it was a Tony Khan tweet, hey, they're going to have a stretcher match, which I'm cool with. I do think one of the reasons that match doesn't have quite a punch is because in WWE, at least, the context is just get them over the yellow line, which has led to some shitty finishes of like, Orton drags RVD halfway up the thing, and then RVD just kicks him, pushes him that little bit, and it's like, oh, I won. It's like that's not what you would want in a stretcher match. It should be you beat your opponent so helplessly that you put him on a stretcher and then wheel him into an ambulance. I would just merge it with the ambulance and just like that.
It should be put him on a stretcher, put him in the ambulance, as opposed to even throw them into the ambulance or somebody jumps into the ambulance or whatever. For context of at least 2 websites, Cage Match doesn't even have things listed down that SmackDown Hotel does, and vice versa. So it seems, at least according to these 2, that the last stretcher match would have been Eric Young versus Kurt Angle in 2015 in TNA.
Wow.
And that before that would be John Cena beating Kane in a Money in the Bank qualifying stretcher match on Raw of 2014.
Yes, I remember that.
And then you're looking at 2009, Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy, Batista and Shawn, One Night Stand 2008, that kind of stuff. It's really been that long? God damn.
Yes, 10 years since the stretcher match.
That's insane. I would have thought that it would have been like, all right, we would have had a stretcher match at some point in NXT, or we would have had a stretcher match on Raw or SmackDown in like 2017 at least or something.
No, Apollo Crews is too busy having casket matches with Grayson Waller.
I certainly would have believed, like, I don't know if that's covering like all promotions, but I certainly would have believed that GCW would have done the stretcher match at some point on a big show.
No, because again, I think it's, especially given how young wrestlers are now, I think it's that context of, isn't it kind of silly that it's just a yellow line? This is a good chance for AEW to rewrite the rules of a stretcher match and make it fun and make people want to do more of them.
You have to strap them to the stretcher, then you have to flip the stretcher upside down.
Well, don't laugh. I was thinking about the whole strap them to the stretcher being a part of it, because at least that's another element.
Well, yeah, it could be
after you flip it, then you put it in the then this ambulance, and then you have to drive the ambulance over a yellow line at the fucking hospital.
It's not a GTA mission, Tony. It's a fucking fight.
I mean, that'd be pretty fun. At any point during the whole thing, somebody else could show up, cash in, steal the ambulance.
I'm just very happy that like Darby Allin's not going to be in the first iteration of this match, because realistically, if this was a Darby Allin stretcher match, he probably would want to have it at the top of Everest.
He would take it literally.
And the win stipulation is that it's the first person to throw yourself off the top of Mount Everest while strapped to a stretcher is the one who loses. So
Darby Allin tries to make the argument the winner of the match is who gets put on the stretcher. Who can make themselves have to go on the stretcher first?
He's got to sled down Everest on the stretcher. The first person to But
I'd watch it. What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ricochet's going to win because like he's got momentum going forward. They're still like really pushing the heel gimmick. I guess part of the stretcher reason is because he just beat a guy with one leg. So I guess that's part of the reason why they're going to do a stretcher sort of gimmick. And but yeah, it should be fun. These 2 guys are great, so I'm sure they'll have a great match. Like one of the ones that's like is a sleeper pick to steal the show if they get it right.
And hopefully it's on earlier in the night and not clashing too much with Anarchy in the arena.
Oh yeah, they can't have that too close together because you don't want to undercut either of the matches.
For all those sickos out there that are wondering how do you get a stretcher match and the amputee thing, don't do an amputee match. We don't need that. We've seen the eye for an eye match in WWE and how dumb that was. Well, before we get into Anarchy in the Arena, I want to remind everybody about the different ways that you can help support us. If you've been enjoying this podcast and you want us to do more and you want us to continue to do the podcast and everything, not only should you be hitting that like button, as I mentioned earlier, totally free, easy, takes 2 seconds to do it, but also make sure that when you are subscribed that you click on the join button that is next to that and get yourself some access to the bonus material and stuff that we have out on our different tiers there. The Darkcast being one of them, the Pick Your Poison being something where you can request something and specifically fund that episode or that article on the website or whatever it might be. Keep in mind as well, if you are a part of the Smark Out moment, Pick Your Poison, and you're like, hey, you know what, I actually kind of wanted to do a Pick Your Poison for Fanboys Anonymous, it's the same thing, essentially, to me. So it would just be, okay, then we'll just do that over on Fanboys. You don't need to be like, you subscribe to the Smark Out Moment 1. Now you got to sign up again. I'm not going to be that type of person. So if you want us to watch Queen of the Ring, as we were talking about before, that would potentially be put over on the Fanboys channel. But, that is something that you can do for Pick Your Poison, for the fan tracks / fan announce table. And of course, the little thanks button that's out there is kind of the same as the super chats. If you are joining us on the live chats for any of these pay-per-view post shows and you want to make sure that I see your comments or you want to just show your support, toss a little spare change our way, those are the best ways to do that. If you want to pick up merchandise, that it's on Redbubble and TeePublic. I always want to say Redbubble and TeePublic. But those two options for the merch are another great way for you to help us out on that front. Also, I guess if you want to do the whole Nitro thing on Discord and, toss a little our way for that, I don't really see the point in it necessarily, but that is another option if you want to be like, I like that and I will gift you that or something. Anything that you guys do is greatly, greatly appreciated. That helps out a lot. So, wrapping this up, Anarchy in the Arena. We don't know who the participants are going to be. We don't even know the amount of participants that they are going to have. Because they could do 4-on-4, 5-on-5, 6-on-3, 2-on-8, whatever it might be. I doubt it's going to be 2-on-8, but you never know. And the way that they had ended the last episode of Dynamite left a lot of that open to interpretation. They at least hinted at the idea that it was going to be intergender and that Willow Nightingale was going to be involved. And of course, Marina Shafir being the opposite end of that spectrum. And that could mean all sorts of things. It could mean, well, it's Anarchy in the Arena. Everybody's fighting anyway, so of course they're going to be involved. And they might not even necessarily be like somebody you can pin to win, or they might officially be. I don't know. But Swerve is the one that put out the challenge. You would have to assume Swerve is most likely going to be on Team Anti-Death Riders / Young Bucks / whatever. Young Bucks are a part of the opposite team, maybe. The Death Riders have Moxley and Claudio and Wheeler. Who knows if Pac is ready? Probably not. Gabe Kidd's involved in some fashion. If the Young Bucks are involved and Kazuchika Okada wants to be in there instead of having a match with Speedball, which I assume Speedball and Okada is going to get confirmed for a Continental Championship match, that also means that Speedball could be involved on the babyface side of things. You've got the Ops, so you've got Samoa Joe and Hook's replacement, Powerhouse Hobbs. Hook's not there. Who knows if he's around? Where's Katsuyori Shibata? And the numbers don't line up anyway. Kenny Omega's involved. Whether he's a part of this opposite Gabe Kidd or Omega versus Okada or the Young Bucks or whatever, they could throw more people in there if they want to just be like, surprise, Darby Allin's back and we're going to put him in there. They could take people out and just be like, well, Wheeler's not in there for no fucking reason. It could be handicap scenario. Who the fuck knows what's happening with this? So my first question for you is, who do you think the teams are even going to be made up of?
So I think that if it's the kind of more conventional 5-on-5 approach, which would be the anticipation, then it would be on the babyface side, Swerve, Kenny Omega, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Willow Nightingale. And then on the heel side, I think it would be Moxley, Gabe Kidd, the Young Bucks, and Marina Shafir. I think you can leave Claudio and Yuta out, and it doesn't actually affect things too much because you could put them in like some kind of tag team match on the buy-in or something on those lines, because they do operate as a tag team a lot. If you go to the 6-on-6, then I think Shibata would probably be back and make a return on the episode of Dynamite, and then you throw Claudio in as the other guy on the heel side. 7-on-7, you're then looking at Yuta on the heel side, and then potentially if Hook comes back, then Hook could go on the babyface side. So there are options. We just don't know what configuration. At this moment in time, the babyfaces look outnumbered compared to the heels. But if Okada's going to be in the match with Speedball, which we all expect him to be, then he won't need to have any sort of involvement. So the maximum you're going to get on the heel side is 7.
Most likely.
It's just a case of, so it's just a case of who do you get to fill out the remainder of the babyface side if that's the case. Because I still think that there's an argument to be made, again, getting more deeper into the match, that I still think that Hook ends up as part of the Death Riders at some point, or at least a heel. Because I just think that it was convenient the way that he was taken out. So I think that there's a good chance that he just ends up joining the heel side in some form or fashion, whether it's on this show or in the future. I think that Jack Perry, when he comes back, he'll shift over from the Elite and into the Death Riders faction. Because, again, I know I'm reading too much into it, but the whole start of this Death Rider story came with Moxley just saying that he thinks that Jack Perry's a good kid. I just thought, okay, and Jack Perry just seemed, with his more unhinged character, that he fits more with the Death Riders than he does with the Elite.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, as I say, there's multiple different iterations happened here. I very much doubt that Darby's going to find a way to get down Everest in a few days. So he only reached the summit at the weekend, so I think it's unlikely that in a week's time he's going to find his way down. But if there's any guy that can, it'll be him.
It's easy to jump down and get there.
Yeah.
If we'd go back to that.
I mean, dive down. Yeah.
I mean, the award was the recognition is only for reaching the top, right? It's not for how you get down. Tony's got a jet, right? You can find somewhere to pick up Darby from off of Everest and then literally drop him into the middle of the match.
He descends like Sting. There you
go. But yeah, as I said, it's just going to be very chaotic, as all Anarchy in the arena matches are. So yeah, even if it is just officially 5-on-5, there's going to be probably 14 to 15 guys in it. I would love it if this is where Eddie Kingston came back as well. That's a potential option for the babyface as well, but that might be a bit of a pipe dream at this point. I don't know how far in his recovery he is. So,
believe it or not, I think he, at least in terms of what the prognosis was, I think he's right at that point, and like I said before, everyone in this match, he's got a problem with on the heel side. So it does make sense. But I imagine that's the one that you announce on Wednesday. And then, you maybe get some extra pay-per-view buys with and Eddie Kingston's back for those of you that can't get enough Eddie Kingston.
I mean, that's at the very least, we should learn by the end of tomorrow's Dynamite who is in this match. If they leave that to Collision, I think that's going to be a mistake. Granted, it's probably selling itself already as it is, because people are going to be like, whatever the pairing is, I want to see that. It's fun, blah, blah, blah. But I do think if you have a surprise and you want to get that last minute surge of people that are going to buy the pay-per-view, you can't do that on Collision. Not as many people are going to be paying attention to that by proxy of, it's not the flagship show, but also it's going to be happening at the same time as Saturday night's main event. So less people are going to be watching Collision than even normal. And I would hope that they have some kind of a game plan for everybody that's involved, especially if they have a 2-hour pre-show, which is going to be if you don't have Wheeler on the card in any fashion, for instance, and you've got 2 hours worth of pre-show that you can work with, that'll be a little bit weird. But it's hard to even pick who would be in the match, let alone pick who's going to win this match without knowing who the hell is involved. Still, for the sake of it, and we'll come back around to this on the hot tags again, I'm going to say as far as a winner goes on the Anarchy in the Arena match, I think that normally they end up setting up blood and guts out of this, and they don't have to. This could be the end of whatever little feuds there are and all. But I kind of think that even just the idea of having a little bit more people on their team could give the edge more to the heels. Maybe the babyfaces win blood and guts instead.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes. I don't know if the heels always win Anarchy in the Arena.
I actually, looking up it now, there has never been a babyface team that's won Anarchy in the Arena.
Well, then I think that kind of lets you know what you can expect here. And it allows Mox to be like, we thrive in pure chaos and stuff like that. And then the babyfaces can win the cage match. And we can start really focusing in on Texas. Yeah, I think no matter what the pairing is, it's just people like chaos. Like the fans of this company, they like the ending of Beach Break, where it was just like, here's a major star and another one and another one. And I think that's what you're getting here. And it's going to be chaotic and it's going to be hard to keep up with. But you're going to see a lot of cool spots. I imagine somebody besides Marina is going to bump for Willow. I think that'll be a huge spot. Maybe we see Stat help her out as well. Maybe, honestly, I can see that Wheeler being good for getting beat up by them. It's just going to be fun. It's hard to preview, really, but it's going to be fun. I'm interested to see where this Gabe Kidd stuff goes, because that's a weird one. He's making it clear that he works for Moxley, but are you a Death Rider, or did we desperately need another hand? You know what I mean? Was this planned, or do you desperately just need another guy?
What's Gabe Kidd involved with in New Japan? Is he in a group? His Bullet Club?
War Dogs, yeah.
War Dogs, but yeah, that's the offshoot of Bullet Club.
But he's also in this weird kind of situation right now where he is getting over as a babyface in the company, and I would say he's a front runner for the G1.
Imagine that you have the match of the year with Kenny Omega 4 days into the year, and you get over as babyface.
Yeah, and that's probably the reason why he's in this. Is it's kind of we're not there yet because it's been pushed back based on the way that All In and Forbidden Door have been scheduled this year. But Forbidden Door is coming in August. He still has a rivalry with Kenny Omega that hasn't been settled. So I think that there's a good chance that that's one of the matches is the rematch between Kidd and Omega happens on Forbidden Door. So this could be a way of building towards that. If Kenny's beating Okada and is the Intercontinental Champion on that show, then that could be a match that you put on there. So, I think that's probably the reason.
If they do spin this into Blood and Guts, they've got a couple shows coming up after Double or Nothing that they could put that on. They've got Fyter Fest is on June 4th. Summer Blockbuster is on June 11th. Grand Slam Mexico is June 18th. Or Supercard of Honor, I don't think would have that. For that matter, too, our Supercard of Honor being the day before All in Texas, that could be where they do the Athena thing, too. Rather than All in Texas. That would make more sense. I didn't think about that. Mercedes Moné wins, not Jamie Hayter. Changing my opinion now.
I think that Athena should be on the main show as well, but in some capacity.
Oh, wait, hold on. Are you suggesting that Mercedes should win the Ring of Honor title and then go the next night and win the AEW World title?
It might happen.
I'd be surprised if they went down that route, but stranger things have happened. But yeah, I mean, they almost certainly won't do Blood and Guts at All in Texas just because of the
mechanics behind
setting
it.
up the ring. Yeah. So it would have to be its own TV show match. So yeah, I imagine one of those one of the special ones in the summer before All In would probably be the best fit for it. Or maybe they decide to do All In and then it's the show, one of those shows that immediately follows it. because there you can do, if you decide to do the swerve and Hangman against the Bugs, you probably can't do that match like after Blood and Guts, because Blood and Guts should be like the definitive ending of it.
Unless Blood and Guts doesn't involve the Young Bucks.
Yeah, there's always a chance. There's a chance for that to be the case, yeah.
Just pure Death Riders and whoever. It's all kind of up in
the
air.
Not really that many Death Riders at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. They need to recruit more. Gabe Kidd and Jack Perry or something.
Yeah.
But we will figure out at least part of the changes on Dynamite tomorrow night. And that will include, I'm assuming, the lineup for Anarchy in the Arena, possibly confirmation about Okada and Speedball, maybe confirmation about MJF doing something on the pay-per-view, maybe some of the pre-show matches, whatever it might be. Again, we will refer back to that when we get to the hot tags later on this week, which will also be our pay-per-view prediction thing for the TNA Under Siege event. That's not getting its own thing. We don't care enough. And we are going to have the next two pay-per-view points are going to be the Saturday night's main event discussion and the WWE Battleground discussion. Probably going to put Battleground first. Rob and I might even record both of those tonight, and then maybe I'll put Battleground up immediately and then schedule Saturday night's main event to be like midday on Wednesday or something. I don't know. But all three of those pay-per-views and the TNA coverage will all be out there in some form and fashion. I'll have stuff up on the Ring Report. I'll have stuff up on eWrestling News. I'll have everything but the TNA stuff up on Smark Out Moment. Still working on getting somebody to start covering TNA for Smark Out Moment. We're kind of working on the details behind that. But across the board, when it comes to all that stuff, we will be talking about review content where we do. TNA stuff will be factored into hot tags next week, but we'll have post shows for the Saturday night's main event pay-per-view / not pay-per-view. And then I'm assuming I'm going to do just one combo thing between Double or Nothing and Battleground. I don't see the point in being like, right now is the post show of Battleground and we will not talk about Double or Nothing, but the live chat will. And I'll ignore that and then end the show and then start a brand new thing. It doesn't make any sense. I'll probably just combine them. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you have your email alerts set up for those things and make sure that you keep following all the different updates that we have across the Smark Out Moment stuff and EWN and whatnot. Make sure that you are showing your support. Subscribe, like, share, favorite, follow, donate, whatever that might be. And make sure that you are checking out all the different links you can see on the link tree at amangotree.com to follow any of my social media stuff that you are potentially interested in. Most of them are at Toni Mango. Some of them are at some other things. Some of them are at Smark Out Moment. Some are at Fanboys Anonymous, etc., etc. Click on the links and you'll find them. And if you're following what I've got going on there, make sure you are also following Rob and Callum.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out my work on Fightful.com. And check out what Callum's got going on.
Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday over on smarkoutmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their prior week's performance. And while you're there, head on over to the Fantasy League section, also at www.fantasyleague.com, to see how our teams are doing in this very, very early stages of this year's season, as we head towards the next big point-scoring shows of Saturday night's main event and Money in the Bank.
Cool. That is part one of our multi-part pay-per-view point setup for this week. We hope that you join us for all of those sections. And coming up next, we will see you with most likely the Battleground predictions. Pop on there later on. And we will see you then. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment. And we're being counted out.